Then let's just continue with our next speaker. He's been here on the panel just a few seconds ago, this time with his presentation on blockchain skills for industrial ecosystems, an EU perspective. Please re-welcome Dr. Joachim Schwerin from the European Commission. Yeah.
So, thanks very much. Yep. Great. Otherwise, I take it in my hand. I have a loud voice, but probably should be okay. Good. Sorry for have killed your break a little bit, and happy that I don't have a too cleansing effect on this room because not everyone left in order to have a break. Happy to discuss a topic that, in my opinion, is getting more important by the day. And when I discussed with Philipp Sandner a couple of months ago of what should I say this time at the Crypto Assets Conference, should I speak again about the benefits of tokenization? Should I take my radical opinion again on how liberal the market should be? Should I talk about football, which would be nice? No. We thought that actually this is a venue for education. And let's, for 20 minutes, talk about skills and education. Because over the last year, when I started getting more involved after 20 years of practice into the work on digital transformation of industry at the European Commission, I started getting two hats on. The first was on developing the token economy, and the second was on developing digital skills for industry and SMEs. And I find that extremely important, and therefore I'd like to spend a couple of minutes on that. The structure of my little presentation is in 5 steps. First, and that is very obvious, and we don't need to discuss that actually, blockchain is an important driver of innovation and growth for industry and SMEs. That's what I just said. The benefits are for the real economy, and the benefits are there in all the use cases. Secondly, the digitalization also poses challenges that need to be addressed if those many opportunities are to be turned into real benefits and results. And this is what we see every day. Third, and that is something that we observe more and more, and that also has industrial but also a geostrategic dimension, digital skills in the EU are scarce, in fact very scarce, which requires a huge re- and upskilling effort. Fourth, blockchain skills are an essential part of digital skills, which further increases their relevance, and that is what one of my main messages is here today, actually. There's no agenda on digital skills in the future possible without blockchain. And fifth, blockchain skills initiatives are strongly emerging, and I will give you a few examples, but much more needs to be done. So let's go briefly through that. And I skip basically this slide because we all know everything about that. Blockchain creates opportunities. I've summarized them here more or less for the private space. Yesterday I gave a presentation on the public space. I could have a second slide on the benefits for the public, but I skipped that. We know all of that, and I think it's also what we work on every day. As said before, we have declared already a long time in the past that blockchain for us is an innovation priority. We see the opportunities, we see all of that innovation, we would like to turn it into results, and we said at a very clear political statement, focus in the future on blockchain because it helps you get these results. But then there are these challenges, and I would subsume them into 4 challenges, and I've tried to depict them with some graphics from earlier reports on that. Don't look too much on the graphics, they're just for illustration. But first challenge is that innovation, and I should have been clearer on that, innovation is decentralized. It is, I think, for everyone in the room here or for the audience out there, a huge challenge every day to only keep trace of what is happening in the space. At least for me, it's a challenge. I mean, I get flooded with reports, information, use cases, discussions, panels, etc. So much exciting stuff going on. When we designed MiCA, when we presented our draft 1.5 years ago, we looked at a lot of things. Since then, we had a huge DeFi discussion, we had an NFT discussion, we have the metaverse discussion, we have the next discussions coming on. I mean, all of this is developing and requires a completely different approach, and this is very difficult. Now imagine someone who is in an industrial enterprise, in an SME, hears blockchain, watches the news, checks some channels on the internet, etc. Complete confusion. Second part is the integration of all that. I've seen in the first slide that there are these 9 prototypical parts of an ecosystem that this graph depicts, where all the innovation is occurring in a decentralized manner. But also you have to put that together. You have to ensure the interfaces. You have to ensure interoperability. You have to see that it works not only in a specific context, but there are linkages to other things. We have heard about bridges being designed between the crypto space and the legacy system. That's a very popular discussion over the last weeks and months, as you know. But how do you do that in practice? How would you do that when you are in an enterprise and try to approach that? Big problem. Third problem, in my opinion, even bigger, dissemination. What you see here is our definition, and that is just one way to do that, of 14 industrial ecosystems that we have in Europe. Don't try to read that. It's all on our web pages, but it's not crucial here for this presentation. We have in Europe, and our statistics confirm that, have been confirming that for a very long time. We have huge amounts of innovation. We are very important and successful, I would say, in creating the business cases, but we are not too good in disseminating. We have 25 million SMEs in the European Union. We have a lot of companies, 80% of them in more traditional sectors, and digitalization as such, and I'm not even speaking about things like programmable money or other things, are very challenging. Take data, take cybersecurity, take other issues. I'll speak about that briefly. So if you have a good idea to get it to your customers, or to source your resources, to have a value chain dimension, to have all the pertinent services included in what you're doing, and then disseminate best practices also to others so that things can scale, is extremely difficult to do and requires skills. And the fourth part, and that is also something, especially this is my favorite slide for regulators, so again, it's not the focus of this discussion here, but what is my opinion of the future is we are observing a radical paradigm shift in governing these processes, and we will not get back to the past. The past is the left part. The part is the foresight part, where you have mature markets, where you have incumbents, where you have long cycles in designing your policy, your regulation, but also your strategy as an enterprise. I mean, if you have been in certain businesses in the past, if you have been producing cars in the 70s, 80s, whatever, I'm not saying that there have not been any challenges or so, but I mean, good advice would have been just for anyone starting to do business or going to capital markets, buy shares, and then you will have a certain money flow. Now, of course, we are living in a completely different situation. And this is a situation where we have emerging markets, we have competition for the markets, we have a lot of, I would say, floating around, very, as I said, decentralized approach. Innovation completely outpaces not only regulation, but any, I would say, centralistic foresight approach. And this requires a completely different attitude towards making up your mind and taking decisions in the digital, in the crypto space. And this is something that also needs to be taken into account in skills, because there is no fixed skills agenda that you have now and that will be valid in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years. You have to find other ways on how to design that. If you look at some of the numbers, 79% of businesses in Europe say that lack of skills constitutes their main obstacle to investment, 53% of our companies have difficulties in finding ICT specialists, and only 14% of small enterprises do employ digital specialists. That's only part of the picture, but I think it is telling. What are digital skills? And I will be also very brief on that, because this presentation is not on definitions and stuff. This is about the other messages. We have listed here what, in our opinion, digital skills refer to: information and data literacy, communication and collaboration, digital content creation, safety, getting more important by the day, problem solving. Problem solving is nice because problem solving sounds so innocent, but at the end of the day, problem solving by using digital tools is difficult. I am a very traditional person in my daily life. Actually using digital tools creates problems for me. So I need to work a lot every day on solving my problems in order to get started for solving problems. Imagine many of those small companies around to do that. So that already is quite a comprehensive task list. Now, what we are trying to do at the European level is we are designing frameworks, and we're doing a lot of stuff in order to help up and reskilling in the digital space. We recently published a communication for the digital decade, as we call it, so the time until 2030, and we gave ourselves a digital compass. The digital compass is an initiative that is around 4 dimensions when it comes to digitalization. It's building infrastructures, it's working on government solutions, it's working on business solutions, and it is, as a horizontal task, skills development. And if you look at some of the KPIs, especially for the skills development, I've listed them here in this part. For example, we would like to get to 20 million ICT specialists in 2030. Now, don't nail me down on this 20 million at the end of the day. It only shows the ambition. At the moment, we have 8.4 million. 8.4 million. We would like to go to 20. Now, I could make my life very easy. I could go to the big techs, and I could say that, okay, let's define ICT specialist as someone who has a certain ability in spreadsheet or whatever kind of software. Give me a little training course. I could have my additional 12 million ICT specialists by tomorrow. No one needs that. So at the end of the day, this must be much more profound. This must be much more use case and application driven as such. Gender convergence, very important point. And I'm not here carrying oaths to Athens. I mean, Frankfurt School is a very good also blockchain trajectory for female experts interested in the domain, which is hugely successful. Congratulations for that. But actually, inclusion goes much further than that. Actually, also, age discrimination plays a big role. When you talk to the biggest companies in Europe, they have all the same problem, that they have a net outflow of ICT specialists, especially in the older segments. So there seems to be a perception that ICT specialists need to be young. Not commenting on that, but should be relatively clear. 80% of the population by 2030 should have basic digital skills, far away from that. I'm not going to all the other KPIs, but you see the ambition, you see the problem. And you can say, no, that's nice political talk. Okay, fine. But the problem is there. The problem we cannot deny. If we get there by 2030, okay, other question, but at least it shows the dimension because, especially in the geostrategic context. As said, 25 million SMEs in Europe. And they are a main target group when we talk about digital skills and digital education. How do we approach that? We have made a little, I would say, presentation or initiative on how to bring digital skills to SMEs, also to startups, of course. First part is very important, always self-assessment. How digital is my organization? That is the first step in order to try to develop skills, need, and then a trajectory towards better education. Then, and that is my opinion, and it can be discussed, of course, we focus on what we call essential digital skills. There are digital skills that you need to have regardless of how digital you are. Even if you say that I'm not digital, you need to have a certain knowledge about digital issues. And that relates to data, that relates to cybersecurity, and that relates to what I call crowd management, which is basically all the relations that you have with all the people you interact with. And in the digital space, as we know, this is much closer, this is much faster, this is much more intense as in an analog domain. And this you need to learn. You cannot just say, I go digital and then everything works. You will be flooded by information, by requests, by stuff. You have to deal with it. And then come the specific digital skills, which I start with blockchain. And that is not by coincidence, because blockchain in the future might very well move up to the essential digital skills. And that's the way that we see it. At the moment, it's not there for many reasons. There are many companies that are not thinking that blockchain is of use to them, but is slowly changing, and we are working very much on this. The rest I skip for reasons of time. What we have launched in November 2020 is what we call the Pact for Skills. The Pact for Skills is an initiative that targets all the 14 industrial ecosystem, and it's based on a charter that everyone can sign. Feel invited to do so, if you agree to the 4 principles that we have here, and that are very short principles, coming out of what I've discussed. Promoting a culture of lifelong learning for all, building partnerships, monitoring skills and apply, and anticipating skills needs, so a future-looking perspective, a demand-driven perspective, and of course working against discrimination for gender equality, etc. We have now started working on all the 14 ecosystems to create partnerships that help the companies in the ecosystem to develop digital skills. And I'm responsible for one of them, for the digital ecosystem. The digital ecosystem has about 7-8 million employees, the workforce in Europe. And we have now designed a group where I'm very happy that the Frankfurt School is also involved, as is Immutable Insight, who have also been presenting here over the last couple of days as 2 very strong blockchain partners. It's currently a group of about 30 organizations, universities, enterprises that guide us in our thinking on how to develop digital skills and how to implement training courses in practice. That goes for the structure, that also goes for the content. And it's not, of course, that with these organizations we can cover the whole of Europe, but we can at least set good practices, create information that we disseminate. And we will, as said, place a very strong focus on the blockchain skills. When we had the meetings with our commissioners last year on this group, we had 12 active speakers, 2 coming out of the blockchain space. That is the focus that I wanted to set, so you see the importance of that. A second project, which is being financed through Erasmus+, is what is called CHASE. CHASE is a blockchain skills initiative for Europe that is also supported by other organizations, especially INATBA, which is a 4-year initiative to set a forward-looking approach towards blockchain skills development. And what they will do is they will formulate and deliver a European strategy to address skills mismatches and shortages in Europe and focus on specific training and qualification. It starts with a mapping. It goes then into the specific programs that each school, each university, each enterprise, each organization can develop. It will map that. The map is already accessible on the internet. So if you're looking at specific skills, if you're looking at specific training course, it's already now there under the link, but in the future it will be much more interactive to see that where can I find, let's say, people that have a certain skill development somewhere, or where can I, if I would like to have education or getting upskilled in this area, where I can go to. You find that all in this project here. There will be a market analysis, so as I said, a demand-driven analysis. And there are some features that drive this market analysis. And these next 2 slides are actually from the CHASE project. They're not my own presentation, but I've taken that from the documentation that CHASE has provided to us. For the future, we can expect a much broader gap if we do not very quickly act on the skills development. I've already mentioned the gap. The gap is 20 million ICT specialists in 2030. We want 8 we have now, but also in the blockchain space, a huge gap. There is a low and slow responsiveness of traditional formal education providers to address that gap, which is a problem. And that is why we need to redesign this system in order to develop more and better education. Along which lines? First of all, it needs to be connected with the real world. I mean, we had examples before here at this conference. It's very nice to have theoretical discussions. I'm an economist myself, so research papers are fine. All these curricula are fine, very well. At the end of the day, we do not have the time for theorizing too much. What we have to work is on concrete solutions for concrete issues at as many as possible. So get connected with the real world, look at what the companies in your area would like to develop, and then get interactive with them. It needs to be online, personalized, business-driven, and it needs to be flexible. No centralized agenda, but a flexible agenda. As said, that's not my personal opinion. That is the market analysis that has been made at this consortium. Then we have also some empirical evidence on that. The size and complexity of the blockchain labor market vary from country to country in Europe very much. Over 50% of all blockchain jobs at this moment in Europe come from 4 countries. Belgium, Germany, France, Italy. Belgium, I think it has something to do with European institutions, but the rest I think is very clear. Recruitment is mostly concentrated around development and engineering, so technological roles, no longer limited to ICT and the financial sector. That's a very important part. Predominantly male, 80% male, 20% women, I've already mentioned that. And as said, predominantly young, people in their 20s and 30s. Why? I mean, of course, it's a question of culture, it's a question of growing up. It's very clear that there's a generational issue in that, but even I as a 53-year-old can understand blockchain, so it should be possible for others as well. And current job offers hardly require any experience, which is a sign, first of all, of a supply shortage, and second, it's a weakness. It's a weakness. You can say that it's a young market. It is only developing, but it's not that you can create good blockchain solutions if you just have crawled out of your egg, to put it like this. I mean, you have to have some experience in life. You have to have built certain things. Then only it works. So you have to address other target groups than you're addressing here today. And there's a clear need, and that's my last slide, for more initiatives and ideas. I've presented you 2 things. These 2 things are very, very active at this moment, the Pact for Skills and CHASE. You can get involved with both of them, and I have 2 other slides giving you the information links later if the slides are disseminated. Feel invited to join the debate because we really need to get as much as possible on the ground. It's, in my opinion, I've discussed that with Philip, a statement that we would like to make very clearly. Each and every education provider in Europe should train on blockchain. And I see that emerging. I see that in a lot of discussions. I'll stop in 1 minute because time is up. I see that emerging a lot. I get requests by people from all sorts of countries, Finland, Portugal, Greece, wherever you are in Europe. I have a university, I see the need, I would like to create a blockchain course. Yes and no. You should do that, it should be everywhere. Don't do that on your own, because the learning curve is long, but create partnerships, look at good practices, information needs to be disseminated, do that, probably on a decentralized level. And last message is, blockchain is special, and that is another argument of why the skills development is so important. Blockchain is a technology, but blockchain is also a technology that can be used to teach, for example, blockchain, but also other things. Because you can create decentralized learning spaces. You can create DAO-based approaches where you can have validated information, training, etc. on a blockchain, easily accessible to everyone. You can track and trace that. You can use NFTs. You can have a sort of complete value chain management also in the education space. This is a unique feature of this technology that you don't have with other technologies. And that is why we have an appeal today here that basically we talk a lot, 3 days about crypto, we talk a lot about blockchain, but we need to focus more on how we get it on the ground, on how we design the agenda, and on how to educate more people on the blockchain space. Thank you.